Happy Easter, AKAPADers. We have a Kevin Reynolds movie today, 2016, Risen, starring Joseph Fiennes. So if you were wondering what that guy was up to since Shakespeare in Love, and what Kevin Reynolds, the mastermind behind Waterworld and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, what he can do with $20 million, well, this is your episode. It's the Film Buff, guys. Let's go.
Quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
It's Easter Sunday, aka Powers, my fellow film buffers, and thank you for joining me. Today's movie for the AKAPAD Film Buff podcast is 2016's Risen. Stars Tom Felton. We know him from Harry Potter. Well, Planet of the Apes, come on. Joseph Fiennes, we know him from Shakespeare in Love. And recently, the couple different things, mechanics around just watching this movie. I was recently watching Shakespeare in Love, and I was saying to myself, man, like what did Joseph Fiennes like fall into after this movie? Because when we watch Shakespeare in Love, he comes off as the next biggest Hollywood leading anything, well, period. I'm talking, you're getting every single movie, you're on every single magazine cover, your face and your screen presence has captured the imagination. I don't know, like now sometimes personal things happens to some of these individuals that make them fall off. Sometimes they just oddly get blacklisted in a way within Hollywood, and then they fully disappear. But I was happy to realize he was in this movie. I think he's fantastic. He has such a journey of that can only be described as truth and reconciliation. He literally sees the light. He sees Jesus come to life, and then he's able to go on a journey, or a little bit of a walk with Jesus, and fully transforms into a Christian by the end of this movie. So our two starring actors are somewhat of the focal point, and we know Tom Felton, Malfoy from Harry Potter. Kind of, I don't want to say he's typecasted, but he always kind of plays the same character. We saw it in Planet of the Apes. We see it in this movie. Here he does play Lucius. Lucius is working with the Roman Republic to hunt down this risen character that they just crucified. He's there to prove that Jesus did not rise from the dead, and he's doing anything he can. His character and the way how he's inserted, very typical in Hollywood storytelling, where you have it's almost like a force in nature, hell-bent to stop anything. I think another good, just real quick, another good example of this type of character is Colin Farrell's character in Minority Report, where no matter what he's doing, he's going to stop Tom Cruise. That's Lucius. That's Tom Felton, played to perfection. So we're getting two solid performances out of this movie. We also have Peter Firth as Pontius Pilate. Again, hits a home. And what do we want from that character? We want ego. We want arrogance. We want the thumb of the Roman world coming down on someone. And in this case, it's Jesus. They just crucified him. It's somewhat. I mean, I would have to go back and double check, because please forgive me, AK Powders. I've seen this film one time, but they speak of the prophecy in this movie, and the prophecy says he will, this guy's coming back. they're scrambling around. They're doing everything they can to prove this wrong. From the opening credits, and the opening credits are fantastic. It's just rock, and then we get the word risen, and then there's little cracks around risen, and there's a light that's coming through. Very 2016, very maybe like home computer opening CGI credit sequence here. Rendered at a high frame rate, but but at the same time, the texturing, the animation, not 100%, but it gets the idea across. We're telling a literal story here. Joseph Fiennes plays a fictional character, but again, puts us in the time where you have to say there were other people around that went on Joseph Fiennes' journey, like his physical walking journey and physical spiritual journey. You have to say that there were people around that saw Jesus, that it doesn't matter like where you lie, maybe a historical character of Jesus, but they saw this guy and they walked with him, and they themselves, and we know some of this, right? Because Christianity did spread. There's a reason for it spreading. It's You can't just have an idea that infected the veins of Rome the way that Christianity did without levels of truth to it. It's just I know we kind of live in this atheist world nowadays. It's really hard to make that logical leap, because equally you can say, what, like, there's other things like in this world that you can compare it to, and you really can't. There is a reason why even in the most oppressed regions in all of history since this time, you found Christianity. Christianity was always there. If there's not something to it, how does it get into Iran? Like, how does it get into a communist republic? Why is it so feared? Why is there like such a threat to monarchs and kings and authorities? But with all of that, let's just and AKAPADers, sometimes when we do film discussions and film reviews here, we try and understand the material. Understanding the material does give us a benefit as a film goer to better in ourselves be in the frame to receive the movie. And it's not all movies are equal, not all experiences are equal. But let's get into the reason why I pressed play on this movie. We have Kevin Reynolds here. And if you ask me about the filmography of Kevin Reynolds, well, I would not have said that he made this movie. I would not have said that he made Risen, and Risen was his final movie. I also would not have said that he somewhat has this weird gap in the 2000s. I was first introduced to Kevin Reynolds in 1984 when I was a kid at home taping movies. Yes, that's how you made a home media library back in the day. You would press record when certain movies came on television, and then that's it. You had your copy. My father and I, my sister, my mother, we watched Red Dawn a lot. We loved Red Dawn. Kevin Reynolds is one of the directors. Now, a year later, he writes and directs a Kevin Costner like early masterpiece, which is Fandango. Great opening too. If you ever seen Deathblow, Quentin Tarantino's Deathblow, there's a scene in Deathblow that emulates the beginning of Fandango. 1988, we have this. I mean, other fantastic movie, The Beast, director. And then here we go. Kevin Reynolds arrives onto the scene in 1991. I remember the MTV music video for this because we had Rod Stewart, Bryan Adams, There's a third guy. Maybe Sting. It was like Sting, Rod Stewart, Bryan Adams, all collaborating for one song. Isn't 90s filmmaking, 90s movies, 90s experiences peak? Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. So now, 7 years later, he recollabs with Kevin Costner. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was a cultural landmark. To this day, we can argue that this is like the version of Robin Hood. On the surface, it's a pretty boy Hollywood movie, cosplaying as this, some like a historical figure, but we know Robin Hood didn't exist. And then we have 94, 3 years later. Kevin Reynolds is now like on the map. He makes a movie called Rapa Nui while on the map. And what do I mean by on the map? I mean, he was in the trenches writing. He writes and we can argue this too, Red Dawn, cultural landmark movie. Low budget movie, Fandango, helps make Kevin Costner a star. A very targeted, streamlined movie, The Beast. Giant takeover Hollywood. We're on Oprah. We're on every single magazine cover. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Now's your time. I believe this was a targeted move for an Oscar. Rapa Nui. Incredible, fantastic movie. We need to discuss this movie. And then that doesn't happen. So you go back to the well. Go back to Kevin Costner. Go back to a big idea. You go back to Hollywood. And you make Waterworld, a movie from early on that was impossible to complete. Too much on the water. Everything a Waterworld led into James Cameron's Titanic. I don't know how what the overlap is as of what mistakes were made and what was able to get avoided, but Titanic ran into some hell. Also, shooting on water. Shooting on water, we were recently discussing Cutthroat Island, and Rennie Harlan in Cutthroat Island has some absolute amazing shot, like jaw-dropping shots that we've never really seen before on water with, a giant boat. And a lot of times when you see these shots, you have to say to yourself, this might have been their one time, like you got one take, and that's it. You got one time to capture it. There's a sense of that in Cutthroat Island. There's definitely a lot of that in Waterworld. Waterworld, again, open ocean type movie, but it does collapse into a singular like set. There's one. We get into the fort essentially, or like the play set. We get into the play set, and a lot of the movie happens there, but it's still in water. Like they are like it's almost like you condense the story into this, but you're still surrounded by water. The world turns out to be this absolute disaster. Every single press outlet loves talking about it at the time. Waterworld later is resurrected. So I used to read articles in Premiere Entertainment Weekly about how well Waterworld did on home video. People were turned away at the box office. And that's where the film itself needs to be discussed at length. 2 years later, he's in, if you want to call it, Hollywood jail. He's in Hollywood jail. But he makes this low-budget movie called 187 with Samuel Jackson. And so in 2 years, he rebounds. I mean, and he rebounds in a sizable way with Samuel Jackson 187. Let's look at the 187 box office. That's the one I'm curious about. Budget. Wow. Yeah, no one, as good as this movie is, no one wanted it. It's because like Kevin Williams, or Kevin Reynolds' name was just a little bit poison. 20 million, and box office less than 6 million. Let's see Waterworld. Let's see Waterworld. 175 million. Box office 264 million. Not, you still, with the marketing at the time, right? Like you still can say that that movie was a loss or a barely break even. And but again, too, like the hopes and dreams attached to Waterworld. 5 years later, 2002, The Count of Monte Cristo. 2006. Now this was a movie too that resonated, had a pulse, was discussed, and we can argue he's got the next Kevin Costner, which is James Franco. Tristan and Isolde. I'm not saying that right. Tristan and Isolde. We're just going to leave that one there. This movie, spoken about, like, I guess we can say word of mouth, produced by Tony and Ridley Scott. The 28 million at the box office. I don't know what the budget is, but again, I think so. He relatively like coming out of Waterworld. We really do argue that Kevin Reynolds just didn't survive. But he makes 187 and Tristan and Isolde. Oh my god. I know how to pronounce it, but when I look at it, it's I just butcher it. Two nice word of mouth movies. And then 10 years later, he makes Risen. He never quite returns back to Hollywood royalty. His Count of Monte Cristo cost 35 million, made 75 million. So like that's really good. Jim Caviezel, but I have not seen this version. Jim Caviezel and Guy Pearce. Wow, what a cast. I mean, he works, he just has his run of working with like the best of the best in Hollywood. Like kind of gave centerpieces to a lot of young actors. Like even Risen, like Risen is such a good role for Joseph Fiennes, and it's the way we shoot this movie. We know we're on a low budget. A lot of Risen looks like it maybe could be like backyard stuff, like like we know where there's a rock quarry, so we can make it look like ancient Rome. Like the opening of this movie is like they wanted to be like this big bloody battle. There's a couple other like group shots where you're just like you don't roll your eye, but we discussed this where you have to pretend you're in the theater and you're watching the play sometimes, because I do feel like you have to insert your imagination at times when it comes to all levels of filmmaking, but especially this level of filmmaking. I do feel like, like 20 million, does it, I don't know. But this movie too, it doubled, cost 20, made 46. That's pretty good. I think that this is a solid movie. I think this is a solid deviation of what we see and read about and know about from the Bible. And sometimes we need these deviations to have characters that are maybe more of a modern day avatar for the audience to enter into this world. It would be no different than like, if you remake Romeo and Juliet, and you insert like a modern day character or something that you think that the audience is going to be able to relate to quicker to guide them through the story, and that's really what this is. I think it's fantastic because there is like a little bit of a feeling of dread from the Roman side in this movie. There's a little bit of urgency, and there is like a full arc. Uh, I sat down to watch this movie because it's a Kevin Reynolds movie, but also at the same time to see what he would do with the material. I didn't look up the budget until right now, but I just wanted someone who I consider to be a high level storyteller sit down and tell me a story from this time and from this era. I think it delivers. I think this movie too is very underrated, very overlooked, and not for good reason. I just think it's a little bit of a time where we got a lot. There's a movie called Centurion. There were maybe like 3 or 4 like historical driven movies that were all set around the same time with the same budgets with similar looking actors, and like that's Hollywood for you sometimes. Like it just cannibalizes itself. But I think this is it's a solid flick, and just be on the lookout because I do want to do Rapa Nui with you guys and more Kevin Reynolds movies. I don't think we've spoken about Robin Hood. I know we have a Waterworld episode, but even Fandango, like, and the Beast. So, a little bit more down the road, but Kevin Reynolds will be a focus on the Film Buff podcast. So, anyway, everyone, happy Easter. I love you. Rock 'em.
Okay, that's a wrap.